as a business, as a brand out into the public, of course, to convert at the end of the day. But when you say you're a copywriter for heart-led brands, like tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's for me, it's about business owners who really want to lead with the emotion behind their business. I think that emotion and connecting with your audience on that level is really the key to successful marketing and higher conversions and all of that kind of thing. I think your audience really wants to connect with you as a person, and I think that's something that a lot of people kind of miss when they're doing their copy and their marketing.
Okay, so I'm gonna get like right into it just because you started there, and that's what we do on No Gatekeeping. How much emotion is too much emotion, though? I mean, there's this balance where I'm like, yay, I'm naturally like optimistic, or I want to show enthusiasm. But like, what about all the other emotions that can come into play there? Like, I'm having a really bad day, or my brand represents, getting out of this space, or, you hear it, you probably see it and hear it all the time. Where do you draw that line?
I think I always say, like, check with your gut, what feels comfortable with you to share, and know your audience. So what are they gonna resonate with? What are they going to, listen to more? And just kinda thinking about that before you start spilling your guts. Like, think about kinda what you wanna share before you start sharing it.
So, I was at a conference last night or a networking event. It was really, really great. And this came up a little bit where and I'm just gonna say in social media, right? We all can like kind of point to that on occasion, but where social media where, some of the stuff that goes viral is like some of the not so great ugly behind the scenes stuff, and that's what'll go
Mhm.
viral. And everybody's like, I don't really feel comfortable about with sharing that kind of emotion to the whole world, yet it does cause that reaction in human nature. How do you feel about some of those things?
I think that's totally fair to not want to go to that level. And I think it's just recognizing that your story doesn't have to be that person's story. Your story doesn't have to be that emotional, that deep. Like you can, for lack of a better word, you can be average. Like I've always felt like I'm very average. Like I don't have any, deep scars that I share on the internet. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but your story is just as valuable and authentic. And honoring that is what makes you relatable, and it's what's going to draw your audience to you more. Just being yourself.
So can you give us some examples, like, without, of course, disclosing your client roster, your client list necessarily, like where you've either had to push a founder into like, okay, maybe we need to get a little more emotional here so you aren't just sounding like everybody else. Like, what are some things that would be so helpful for us to know, or how have you pushed a client to get maybe just a little more uncomfortable in that space?
So one client that comes to mind is a videographer, and he's incredible at what he does, but he has a very hard time showing up as himself, sharing more of his personality. So when we were doing his website copy, he wanted his about page to be more about his business. I'm like, no, like we have to share some of your story because that's important too. And some of the facts that he shared with me to put on that about page, he's like, well, like, do we really have? And I'm like, as long as you're comfortable with it, it helps people to resonate and to connect with you on that personal level. They might have something in common with you, that kind of thing. So I think there are people who feel like people don't want to know that. They don't want to get to know them on that personal level, but that really is important in my opinion.
Do you run the risk? This is what I would be thinking. Oh, am I going to run the risk of like ruling others out if I step into some things that are more personal? And what if it doesn't resonate with some potential leads or clients?
I feel like in that case, it's okay. Like bless and release kind of like not everybody's going to be a good fit for you. Not everybody's going to be a good fit for me. And when we kind of allow them to come to that conclusion through our copywriting, then that's okay because it's saving you time, it's saving you energy, and it's leaving space for people who are a better fit and who do resonate with those things.
Yeah, and that's a really big aha moment too, right? And I think, we feel like we have to serve everybody all the time, or, you want to be able to, you don't want to niche down because like you don't want to rule people out, but those people, that's like a natural filter to prevent maybe your call schedule from getting too full with people who really aren't going to align with who you are and what your business can or cannot do for them or what it looks like. And that's such a hard lesson to learn because who wants to
Mhm.
turn down business, right? Or clients or customers or whatever that style of business is. So when you're talking about the anti-sleaze, I think that, that was our topic or, our heading for today. Um, what is that difference between strong conversion copy and then manipulative tactics, right? As we can see those, I think playing into pain points or, I mean,
Mhm.
that is such a big topic. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, first of all, it's making sure that there is that emotion. So I call myself like an emotion-led, heart-led copywriter. So having that emotion in it helps because if you have the emotion behind it and the passion behind it, you're not selling to somebody just to make a quick buck. You're selling to them because you genuinely believe that this is what's going to help them. You genuinely believe in what you have to offer and that it's going to change somebody's life. And just pulling from that, in my opinion, makes it anti-sleaze, but also selling it in a way that feels good to you and to your audience, which a lot of people feel like that's not possible. They're not comfortable selling. But when you're selling with that emotion and selling with your heart and selling by starting with that connection, that personal connection with somebody, then it is possible. Um, and something that I've come across that I'm very passionate about is just being honest in your copy. So there are some people who will use false urgency. They'll use like sleazy scarcity tactics. Not that there's anything wrong with using urgency. Like we use urgency in copy as a psychological trigger, but is it real? Because I've had even my husband has told me some experiences of like some people he's seen online who are like, there's 3 spots left. And then 2 weeks later, there's still 3 spots left. And saying these people are signing up, but it's just always open. Like that's not genuine. And people catch on to that. And then that breaks the trust with your audience. And the trust is very slow and difficult to build up. It's very quick to break, in my opinion. So that's kind of where the anti-sleaze comes into play for me. And just keeping it heart led and emotion driven when you really honestly believe in what you have to offer.
So have you ever had a situation where somebody has had something like that happen, right? Or they feel like, okay, it's not working anymore. Whatever I was doing, it's not working, whether it's that urgency example you just gave, which is a great example. And they've come to you to say, okay, can you help me like rebuild that trust? Have you had to do something like that with any clients before?
I wouldn't say that I've had to necessarily rebuild the trust. I have had occasions where I've tried to steer somebody away from using that false urgency. Um, Ultimately, it didn't end up being a good fit, and we had to kind of go separate ways because that was kind of what they had in their head, and I respect them for the decisions that they make, but that's not what I'm about. But I think if somebody is looking to build that trust, it would be nurturing your community. So not just sell, sell, sell all the time. Make sure that you're doing like the nurturing in email marketing and the nurturing in social media and connecting with people on a genuine, authentic level is a great way to continue to build that trust and just showing up as yourself too. Like people shouldn't be able to tell the difference between you showing up on stories on Instagram and you showing up in person.
Yeah, and I think that's something great for everybody to remember. Whatever you put out there in social, it would be as if you're just going to meet your neighbor and say the same thing you would say as on social. And yeah, without the ring light and all the things and the microphone and all the stuff, you're actually just having a conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes and a lot of things to navigate. And in the space of copywriting, and let's just state the obvious, AI. Tell me a little bit about how you see this shaping the future of copywriting and marketing in general, and then making sure that you are weaving in your personality into some of this because GPTs, whatever the language learning model, LLM as they're referred to, they do get to know you pretty well.
Mhm. Yeah, this is always one of my favorite subjects because it's
Great.
like such a big elephant in the room right now when I tell people that I'm a copywriter. Um, and I think that AI is valuable. It's definitely a tool. I view it as a tool, it's not a takeover. So when it comes to the creativity, first of all, when it comes to the creativity, I feel like your creativity is a muscle. And the more that you're using it, the stronger it's going to get. So if you're relying constantly on AI to write for you, then you're not going to get any better at writing for yourself. And part of what I believe is that you you should hone in your voice and honor your voice by letting yourself do some of that foundational creativity and not outsourcing that to AI. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with AI writing, but I feel like it's important for you to have that foundation and know what it needs to look like at the end. So even knowing like the strategy that needs to go into it, what it should look like as a final draft, it's important for you to know those things instead of just trusting that AI is getting it right because AI is not always going to get it right. And something else that I feel about AI is that it's never gonna think outside the box. So it's only as good as what it's given, and I think it's gonna it starts getting generic, like, people start recognizing that it's AI and they get sensitive to it. So I think having that value of having your own unique voice and your own unique writing is what's gonna really stand out in a world where people are using AI for copy and for marketing.
Do you use AI in your business? Do you weave in that tool at some point when you're working with clients or just in general? You do. Yeah.
Yeah, I use it every day. So, big thing for me will be like the brand questionnaires that I have all my clients do, the messaging consults. I take all of those and create a summary so that I have
Mm.
like a clear picture of my client. And then I use it for market research to pull in like emotions of their ideal client and their target audience. And yeah, I use it every day, but I don't use it for the copy.
Well, and Evie, you talked a little bit about the foundation. So can you describe that or go into more details about well, like if I am, and this could be for a business that's just starting, right? I have a client where she's just getting started and she's really trying to figure out her branding, her voice, her messaging, all those things. Um, and then there's, definitely businesses, myself included, where I'm like evaluating what is my messaging. Let's get a little bit more clear. Where am I in this space? What do I want to show up and who do I want to show up as? So you talk about that foundation. What are a few key things? Like if I were to say today I'm going to work on my foundation, what does that mean?
I would say figuring out kind of what is your why? So what's behind what you're doing and who are you talking to? So getting that clear image because you want to be talking to one person in your copy and your marketing and the clearer image that you have of that one person, the easier it's going to be to talk to them. Another thing that I would do is kind of when it comes to your brand voice, write down different things about yourself. So for example, for me, like I'm soft spoken, I'm, emotional, like all these things. And the big ones that really stand out to you are the ones that are going to shape your voice naturally.
Oh, interesting. I wouldn't have thought about some of those things, but excuse me, you're right. When you go back to some of the beginnings of brand messaging and really working with a copywriter, it is speaking to one person. You are as if you're constantly speaking to that, ICP or ideal client avatar, whatever the case might be. So when I think about copywriting, do you see that there is a differential between a personal brand and a business brand? Do you have copywriting for both sides? So if there's one business, you could use my business as an example. I've got like Pop Academy and all the education, but then I'm also Carlyn Bushman, this other person over here. Do you suggest like putting that all together, keeping that separate? Like, how do you write copy that could maybe address both individually or together?
Mhm. I think it depends because, yes, some people might have a little bit of a different brand voice for their company versus their personal brand voice. So just really outlining those from the beginning and um, it can even be the same. Like I've got like some people that it's the same, and I'm even thinking of one of the more like very big corporate clients that I've written for, and just making that voice still approachable. I think that's the biggest thing is if you're gonna have like a voice for your personal brand and then a voice for your business, making sure that that voice is still very approachable. Like this was a very corporate um industry and like I'm trying to think of like a utility industry almost, so it
Oh,
could be very,
sure.
like, rigid and, like, technical, and we wanted to make it very approachable and that, like, somebody who didn't know anything about the industry could still come on and relate to the copy, learn from the copy, and it wasn't just technical jargon everywhere.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that can be challenging. We're so used to working in I'm so used to working in the space where I'm really working with female founders, and it's easy to have these conversations, and it's, interesting products and services, but there are the utilities, there are the engineering, there are, some of those things. Not that those aren't interesting, but transportation companies, right? Logistics, like
Mhm.
all of those different, businesses. So let's just kind of go over to the other side of your world, which is balancing your life as a
Mhm.
founder, and of course raising your two boy,
two
girl, I can't
girls
remember. That's what I
two
thought.
girls,
Okay.
yep, yeah,
And how old are they?
3 and 5.
Okay, so that's busy.
Yes.
So how are you doing that? How are you managing to cut out time throughout the day to still be present with them? Like, what does that look like for you?
It was definitely a learning experience over the last few years to do that because when I started my business, I was so excited and I was like, go, 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 working all the time, like working in the playroom while they were playing, like just, I was so into it. And then once I quit my part time job and went full time working from home, it was like very obvious that I had to start setting some clearer boundaries for myself. Um, and it was very much like a long road to get there. Um, Part of it was investing and working with people who understood that I was a mom and that my priority was to have more time with my kids. That's why I started my business. And so working with somebody who understood that and could help me to set those clearer boundaries was super helpful. So part of what I learned from that was making sure that each day kind of has its tasks for the day. So like Mondays are my call days and my admin days. Wednesdays are my deep work days. Those are the days I have childcare. So the majority of my work is getting done within those 2 days. And then on my days off, so to speak, the priority is my kids. So if they're off playing and they're like having a good time, then I don't feel bad about coming in and checking in on the business, checking emails, that kind of thing, doing a little bit of work. But just recognizing that on those days, they are the priority. So if they come and interrupt me, it's laptop closed, go be with them, be present with them. Something else that I found really helpful was not having my phone on me, like, if I find that my phone's a distraction, because everything's on my phone, like Instagram, email. Actually, I took email off because that was that's another
That's
thing is making
impressive.
sure it's not accessible, only accessible on my computer to kind of draw that line. Um, but yeah, like, we do everything from our phones, right? So, putting the phone down in a different room, leave the ringer on because if somebody needs to reach me, but just having that separation, because I think it's, like, such a knee-jerk reaction to just pick it up if it's in your pocket or next to you, so that's been super helpful as well.
And I know these sound like, oh yeah, I could do that. That's easy, but it's hard to do. Like, these things are
Mhm.
hard to do. I'm sure it took you, how much time did it take you to kind of get to that?
A long time. Like,
Like,
probably I've been working especially hard on it in the last 6 to 12 months, I would say. There's still sometimes where I get into those old habits again, and it's just, like, really putting my foot down and being like, "Nope, like, you worked hard to get to here, so just stick with your boundaries." Yeah.
okay, so thank you for saying that it's like 6 to 12 months plus plus, because I think long time can mean, 6 weeks to some people, six
Mhm.
days, 6 years, like whatever the number might be. So I appreciate that. It was just something you had to build into what you would think as a positive habit, right? Something that some discipline. It took some discipline in there, and that's impressive. I think, well, and I also want to thank you for being with us on a Thursday, which did not fall into your Monday or Wednesday description you just gave us. But I'm guessing this has caused you to be super efficient on those Monday and Wednesdays.
Mhm. Yeah,
How do you do that? I was just on with a client this morning and we were talking about like the to-do list and the task lists and prioritizing and that was part of, really staying focused. How do you do that on Mondays and Wednesdays as in this example?
it's definitely not easy, especially again with, like I said, like picking up the phone all the time. So, couple of things that I do is I'll make a list at the beginning of the day of these are my top 3 to-do lists. I don't make like I think obviously there's like a million things on the to-do list every day, but what are the top 3 things that I have to get done today and focus on those 3 things first. And then if there's time for more things, then do them. But if it's 5 o'clock and it's time to clock out, then give myself permission to clock out and leave those tasks for another day. That's been super helpful. Um,
Do you do paper or do you like have like a digital format or platform for that or do you just do pen and paper?
like for writing, oh, for my task list. So my
Mhm.
master list is on like a Asana, like a task management program. That's kind of my
Okay.
master list, but I do pen and paper for those top 3 things. Got really bright in here all of a sudden.
That's okay.
There we
Um,
go.
Okay, that's fascinating. I
Yeah.
love that because you use a little combination of both. Because what I find is, and I'm just going to show everybody here, like what I have is a lot of different task things. And I think, okay, and I've got a platform where I try to keep things too. And I'm like constantly trying to figure out the best way, what's going to work for me in this,
Mhm.
as I evolve in my business and personal balance of my life and things like that. So, um, amazing. Anything else that helps you on those days where you really have to get stuff done?
Putting the phone away, again.
Yeah.
Like, if I know that I have a lot of writing to do, especially that day, um, I'll make sure that I kinda give myself the space to do it because it takes a lot of brain power to be able to do that. So, making sure the phone's put away, if I want some music on, play it off my laptop, just remove as many distractions as possible. And if I need, like, to clear my head or whatever, I'll do some journaling before I start writing or take the dog for a walk, but just making sure that I'm sitting down and being productive and making the most of that time. And also kind of thinking of it like, okay, if I can get this done, then I can have the evening of not stressing about it. And like the more productive I am right now, the more fun I can have later. So kind of having that reward at the end of it as well.
Ooh, I like the reward system a lot. That feels really good. You've just made me very calm when you just walked through that so seamlessly. So thank you for that gift today. Appreciate that. Um, So dipping back into like the copywriting aspect, because I've got a few questions before we wrap today. And again, if there's anybody out there watching, if you have questions, you can either drop them in, underneath the show notes as comments, or of course, put them in the live chat. I always encourage all of these things to start a conversation. That's what it's all about. So my question for you is what's one common mistake that founders make when writing their own copy?
That's a good question. Common mistake. I think it would be saying too much. Like
Oh, interesting.
copy isn't necessarily about writing all the things and having like this big eloquent page of copy. Great copy is simplified and it's clear and it's to the point. So I think that's one thing is people will kind of go off on these tangents in their copy and it's like stick to the point and make it simple.
I like that. I like that because I think that also resonates with when you're going to give like an introduction, right? Again, back
Mhm.
outside, walking, in your neighborhood, you meet somebody new. Are you really going to take up, well, you could actually, I've seen that happen, but are you
Yeah.
going to take 30 minutes to talk about who you are and what you do and all the things? So I like that. And then I think, another great question that I know has come up frequently with my clients or, those I serve. What's something you wish every founder understood about connecting with their audience?
I think it's just letting it happen organically. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with sliding in with somebody's DMs, but start that as an organic relationship, get to know the person. Something else that I've found very, very impactful in my business too is to go to in-person things. There's
Mm.
just you and I met at an in-person event, and I think
Hmm.
having that be the start of the relationship is a huge piece of it because you kind of already broken through that initial wall, and now the person knows you personally, you can continue it on Instagram. So continue to show up on Instagram. I love stories for that, just showing up and like being myself, sharing about my day, sharing the behind the scenes. That's a great way to continue to add on to that relationship and grow it.
I love that you said that. And there's nothing better than in-person events. There's no question about it. And you're right, meeting you in person. And here we are, what, 6 months or so, many, and from very different parts of the world, basically,
Mhm.
but like very, distance. And that does make a difference, which is why I went to an event last night. It was one of those where I thought, oh, why did I sign up for this? I'm kind of tired. It's a Wednesday night. I had a full day. I was teaching and now I need to drive almost an hour to this event. And okay. And then I got there and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I went. Like I'm so glad, right? Like that's usually the reaction is just seeing
Mhm.
everyone in real life and giving hugs or making introductions. So it's lovely to actually see you in this format again, and yes, to stay connected. Any parting thoughts, Evie, for our audience, or anyone who seeks to do better in that not cringy, not sleazy marketing from a copywriter standpoint?
Mhm. Something that I've been leaning into a lot lately is figuring out what's enough for me. So I think especially in social media, we're like constantly comparing ourselves of like, oh, I got to have this big, huge, booming business. I've got to show up this way. But just really get quiet with yourself and figure out what that really looks like for you personally. So what do you want your business to look like? What do you want your marketing to look like? How do you want to show up? And just pushing out the rest of like comparison, what you're seeing from others, and what does that really look like for you? I think that's something that I've been leaning into that's been really amazing lately. And yeah, so that's what I would encourage people to do.
I love that. Well, your timing was perfect. I think everyone is feeling the pressure of rounding out 2025, Q4, making their goals, not making their goals, close to making their goals, right? And how much you can do before the end of the year, when the end of the year is also time to pause, reflect, spend time with family and friends, and enjoy that quiet and that stillness that really can lead to some incredible aha moments. So, amazing. Well, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you again for making time on your very protective day, which is a Thursday. So I appreciate you joining us today. And I just want to remind everyone that Pop Academy is off into the races right now. Our fall semester is underway and it's been quite incredible. Our largest class ever. Where our next session of Pop Academy will be launching in spring of 26. So if you're curious about what that looks like, make sure you hit the link in the show notes so that you too can join the waitlist and hear more about what Pop Academy can do for you and your business. And of course, all of Evie's information will also be included in the show notes. So when time allows, she will connect with you. But as she has stated for us today, and for me as well, be protective of your time. And I appreciate that insight too. This is what No Gatekeeping is all about: real strategies, real stories, and tools that help founders lead with intention. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and we'll see you next Thursday. Have a brilliant week.